welcome in. Today we're talking to 2021 Hall of Famer Jeff Moser, 4-year starter. Took over starting duties as a freshman in 1993. Went on to be a 1995 All-American, a 3-time All-Conference honoree. He has the career record in passing yards, fifth best single season, and the number that I tallied up today before we talked, won nearly 70% of his games as a starter at quarterback. First of all, Jeff, congratulations on your selection of the Hall of Fame and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate you guys having me today. I'll just start by saying it's an unbelievable honor to be included in this group. We can look at the group just from this year combined with who's been put in this category. And I'm kind of speechless to the fact that I'm being included in it. So thank you very much for not only having me, but including me here today.
Well, that's a good segue to something I want to talk about later. But first, I want to talk about how you got to Southeastern. You're from Ardmore. In 92, you led Ardmore to a 5A state championship. And you on a team that you guided that featured a handful of D1 recruits. Talk a little bit about the recruiting process and how you ended up at Southeastern.
Sure, absolutely. As you mentioned, I was from Ardmore, Oklahoma. Small town, competed with there in Durant, a lot of the southern Oklahoma schools. We had an exceptional group of athletes in our senior class, not to mention when I was a sophomore, which I wasn't on the field that year. We won state championship that year, but that senior class was extremely impressive. So going through Ardmore in that time was a special time for athletes. And as you guys know, athletics in small towns in Oklahoma is a big deal. So that's all we did. That's how we lived. But as far as our senior class, when I spent most of my time on the field, I think we had 7, 8, 9 guys go play college football off that team. And there were a handful of them that went D1 that were just exceptional athletes. Some that could have went and played that didn't. But there was not a specialty position on the field that didn't have an exceptional player in it. So I would say that my time there at Ardmore was, and we'll get to the Southeastern part later, was very similar to where it went at Southeastern. I was surrounded by not only incredible coaches, but incredible players that made my job easier as a quarterback. I mean, you can't just get out there and be in a position, but at the end of the day, if you've got special players around you, it makes a difference. The coaching staff there was incredible. We can get into my story about, kind of where I came from and all that. As far as, I came from a split home, a very wonderful mother, very wonderful father. Unfortunately, I lost my father when I was a freshman in high school, and we had that was a tough time in my life. So I had a lot of special people in my life that pulled me through high school, and a lot of the coaches, even at Ardmore today, would say that there was a ton of those kids that I was teammates with that didn't have fathers in the home, and we were hard to corral. I'll tell you that. They'll tell you that today. Had an incredible group of kids, but it was a hard team to coach. So, not to mention, the coach knows my mom was an integral part of my life through my high school career and college for that matter. So, as far as that's concerned, we can kind of reel into the recruiting side of things. And after the state championship, and there were lots of D1 coaches coming through for a number of players on that team, and I was not a highly recruited kid at all. I don't fit the mold for the 6'1", 220 quarterback. I didn't throw it 70 yards down the field, and I wasn't real fast. So there was a lot of boxes that I did not check, I'll be honest with you. And that was okay. And I didn't have any high expectations for post-high school, high-level D1 type football. I felt fortunate to be recruited by not only Southeastern, but I did talk to East Central a little bit as well. And those were my two schools. And that was it. Coming out of Ardmore, going to Southeastern, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't have the mindset that I was going to be the guy as soon as I showed up. I just wanted to go play. I just wanted to look back on my college days and say, you know what, I tried, it worked out. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I did want to see what it felt like. So was recruited by Coach Richards, not Coach Baxter. He wasn't in my area. Anyway, ended up over there and got rolling. So it's kind of how I ended up there.
Well, and it is rare that you get to talk to both sides of things. And while you said you weren't directly recruited by Coach Baxter, I'm sure he was aware of you in the process. And so, Keith, just a little bit from the other side of things, as you guys evaluated talent, as the offensive coordinator, you're looking to these quarterbacks. What did you kind of see as the recruiting process went on, and then when he landed on campus?
Well, I'm going to jump in there, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity. And Jeff, congratulations on your nomination and upcoming induction into the Hall of Fame. Southeastern is very, very fortunate, and we're blessed that you made the decision to come to Durant, Oklahoma, and not go to Ada, Oklahoma. To that, we would have not liked that very well. But I want to regress just a little bit before we get into the part about the recruiting. You mentioned your coaches there, and I'm going to bring out a name. And I hope it's all right with you, Jeff. Coach Tips. Coach Tips is a Southeastern graduate, a former quarterback at Southeastern, and you and I have had some conversations. I think he was a winner, a leader. Obviously, is very, very successful at the various places that he's been. But during that time in your life, I think he was a solid part and a great person for you to be playing for at that time. And I think a lot of your accolades in high school, and I know a lot of your accolades at Southeastern, I attribute to the leadership and development that he provided for you.
Oh, absolutely. You'll get me choked up talking about that guy.
And that's all right. That's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say other than the fact that I don't know what I would have done without that guy.
That's all you have to say. That's it. But we know Coach Tips has touched a lot of lives, and yours specifically on this call. But let's jump forward to the recruiting process. We and most colleges are the same. We're always looking for a quarterback each year. We try to recruit at least one. Jeff was on that list. He had all as he said, he had all of the intangibles that a person needs to lead a football team and to have success. I think at one point in time, I'd gone back and you and I had talked about, Jeff, years ago, your record from junior high all the way through high school, and that 70% that you had here at Southeastern, I think it was more like 90% or 95% there at Ardmore throughout those years. And so he had all of the track record, and it was just a matter of making that adjustment. As he said, he wasn't highly recruited, but probably two of the three most famous quarterbacks that have ever played at Southeastern weren't necessarily the most highly recruited people, but they've came and done a great job. And Jeff, you're at the very, very top of that list. So, I could go on for hours of talking about, Jeff Moser stories and Jeff Moser moments, but he said he didn't come with a lot of high expectations. I would echo that on our side. I don't think we had a lot of high expectations, for him to come in and step in. But we had some situations that occurred over the off season. And then I do remember this, and I won't take credit for one pass that he threw or one play that Jeff made during his great career here at Southeastern. But I will say, I remember coming into the coach's office after it may not have been the first practice, but it was at least the first day. It may have been after one of the first three practices we had that day. And I said, that guy from Ardmore, there's something special about him. He's got a knack. He's just got that, as coaches say, that it. And just the way you handled yourself, the way you adjusted to what we were doing. And, again, I'm jumping forward, but I learned a lot from Jeff Moser during his time here, and Keith Baxter's career was a lot better because Jeff Moser was a part of it. I'll say
Well,
that.
I'll talk a little more about that first day, because I wish somebody told me that, because Matt, I don't know if they still do this at Southeastern, but when we were there, every position had a depth chart posted, and day 1 or 2, we had 7 quarterbacks on the depth chart, and I go in as a new guy. Sure enough, Jeff's number 7. I'm like, well, all right, we got a little ways to go. Yeah. But that was, I didn't care. Again, I didn't have any expectations, and I think you just kind of put your head down and do what you do, and whatever happens, happens. But, yeah, it was.
You started at 7, but you didn't stay at 7 long.
No, I didn't very long. But yeah, it was, that was about what I expected going in. So there's a lot of good players at Southeastern right before I was there and even during there. And, it's just a different atmosphere than high school. I don't care where you come from. It's hard to have a conversation about small college athletics to folks that have never been around it sometimes, because the competitive level of players there is still so high. Lots of guys that couldn't go play at the upper level, lots of guys that could, but still the ability to get on the field for any one player, regardless of the position, is extremely tough. So that was, and it's different. I mean, college sports is tough. It's not mom and dad anymore, and just because you grew up around head coach, you get to get on the field. You got to earn your way in any college rank, for sure.
Well, Jeff, talk a little bit about your adjustment from Coach Tips to Coach Sloan. Coach Sloan is a very visible character, visible person for Southeastern. Played here, coached here, all-time winningest football coach at Southeastern history. Talk a little bit about that adjustment, and his might not have always had the softest of gloves, but very, very, very productive.
I loved it. I mean, Coach Tips has a place in my heart for our time together and how he coached and how he led. And it was just second to none. And then I come to Southeastern, and Coach Sloan has a totally different vibe, totally different way of leading. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it just as much. I mean, they're two totally different people, but you can't take anything away from either one of them, because they lead in their own ways. I loved the way Coach Sloan led. I thoroughly enjoyed how he was so interactive with the team on every level, whether it meant bus rides to after the practice to on the field, and was extremely vocal, just like most head coaches are. Same with Coach Tips. It was just in a different way. But Coach Sloan and I, it's just totally different, but I absolutely loved it. It was more of there's accountability factors that are different with Coach Sloan. It was different time. Definitely more of a collegiate style, than what you would see in high school. But both extremely respected from a leadership standpoint, and loved every minute of it, for sure.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your, getting onto the field, going from those first 2 games, and kind of being in the backgrounds watching, and then that first time that you got on the field. Do you have many memories of that night? I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
I mean, I was scared to death, if I'm being honest with you. And I'll tell you, I need to give a shout to somebody right here, because a lot of people cared about me, but there was one guy that cared the most about me before that game, because you told me, you said you need to be ready, and we were going over to Arkansas, and I told my mom, my mom, who followed me, throughout high school, never missed a college game in my career. I was like, you need to be ready, because there's a chance I'm going in next game. I know that sounds weird, but Jason Solis, all right, For those that don't know Jaco, he was our equipment manager. And I said, Jaco, we've got to go to the field house because it sounds like I'm going to get to play, and these shoulder pads aren't right. They are not right. You know, at Southeastern's budget hasn't always been the largest of any college in the country. So, you know, sometimes the equipment was, a little bit less than what it needed to be. So Jaco and I went down there and altered my shoulder pads before that game. And Jaco will tell you today that he goes, I'm the only one that loved you before that game. And but back to the game, I will say that I was scared to death the first couple plays, but after I connected that first pass, I think I threw one real rough one to Junior, and then my second one I think was to Shannon Rowell, hit him, and it was just football. So all was over after that. But I was scared to death getting on the field.
Well, I can remember that. I remember that slant to Junior that he takes it in and scores, in the pass to Shannon. And Jason may have been the only one that loved you before, but we all loved you after that.
No, I know. Yeah.
But, again, you came in and showed the leadership, the intangibles, and we had a great supporting cast. We just needed that guy. We needed that guy to pull the trigger, and you came in and did that. I think we reeled off like the next 5 out of 7 games winning and go on to have a good solid year. And it kind of starts the Jeff Moser era, which really arguably is one of the most successful eras in the history of Southeastern football. So talk a little bit about that, about your teammates and offensive, defense. I know, and the cool thing that I know about you, and that a lot of other people probably know, but a lot don't as well, is that you weren't just an offensive guy. I mean, you hung with the defensive guys too, and I think it was a true leadership of the entire team that they knew as long as number 10 Mouse was pulling the trigger, we were going to be in the ball game.
Well, I'll talk to that. I think my perspective on that, and I'll say the reason you hired me to go on the field or put me on the field, obviously wasn't because I could throw it 70 yards down the field. It wasn't because I was a fast guy. It was because, and I'm speaking for you, it's because you felt like I was going to put the ball in the hands of the people that could make it happen. It's because I didn't try to do more than what I could do. I knew my lane. I knew my lane was to get it in Junior's hand, to get it in Eric Knight's hand, to get it in Shannon's hand, to put it in Ernest's stomach, whatever the case was. And that's what we did. And I think there's a lot of good athletes that came through Southeastern Oklahoma State University after me, before me, all that. That played right behind me. But I think being surrounded with what we've talked about, the Pete Spratts, the Eric Knights, the Shannon Rowells, the Junior Dades, Ernest Hunters, Tim Beard, Jakarta Washington, all these offensive guys, Christian Pichelle, I could keep going on and on about all these guys that no matter what I did, somebody was either going to take it or they were going to be open. And so my job was to, go up there and call the offense. We kind of put in that in our area, we kind of started putting in the sideline. Everything was coming in from the sideline. And that kind of became a bigger thing as I was transitioning toward the end of my career. But I just think the fact that, and this is no different in high school. I mean, I was surrounded by a lot of talent that could make things happen. Yeah, and I put it in play. I put it out on the outside, but I wasn't going to throw it 80 yards down the field. And, it was just something that I think I didn't try to do too much in a lot of cases, and which is what I feel like made, I look back on that career, and it's kind of weird that I still hold records. I feel like that stuff should have been surpassed over and over again, because based on who I know's come through the system, no doubt. But, I think you just attribute it to just taking what you're given. and roll with it.
Well, Jeff, you epitomize that, and you know, when in our offensive philosophy back in those days, and continued for many years after, was just what you said: take what the defense gives, and you were a master at that. You know, a true master to go up, and you know what a lot of people don't know, that we would call basically 5 plays in the huddle, and you would make the determination at the line of scrimmage. You know, we evolved later on because some other guys might not have been quite as adept of discerning what the defenses were giving us, and discerning, you know, the alignments and the disguises and things like that. But you actually called the play. So I think that's probably why you still have some of the records, because you got to call most of the plays at the line of scrimmage. No, just kidding on that one. But you put our offense in the best situation, which ultimately put our team in the best situation to win, you know, those games throughout those years. But that was just you know, it was really a very, and if I'll get choked up here, a very special time in my life, because I learned a lot as a coach, watching you and being able to coach you and being able to go through that process with you. But I think, you know, I think we were a little bit ahead of the game, and I think you were way ahead of the game as compared to some of the other schools, you know, in our area. And I won't mention any names, but I remember coming off the field one game, that we had a pretty good game. You had an excellent game, and the defensive coordinator from the other side said, well, it was like every time we'd call this defense, you would run this play, and every time we'd call the other defense, it's like you knew what we were doing all the time. And I just kind of grinned and chuckled. I said, well, number 10 knew what was going on and knew where to put, give our offense the best opportunity to be successful. And again, as a result, gave our defense a great opportunity to be in the ball game. Any memories stick out? Any? I mean, you had so many great plays, and you keep saying that you couldn't launch the ball 70 yards down the field, and I will agree with you, you couldn't. But you had many 70-yard passes. You had tons of huge touchdown throws. You know, it's already been stated, you're all-time leading passer. Do any of those plays stick out to you more so than others?
Oh, I mean, you probably know where I'm going with this one, but I would say one of the, you know, if I woke up in the middle of the night and thought about my career in small college football, you know, one of the starting highlights would be against Northwestern my freshman year, and we were literally, I don't know, there's 3 seconds left on the clock, and we got the clock stopped, and we had one play, and we took a timeout and put Sprout on the outside, or Sprout on the outside, and I can't remember who was on the inside, but I mean, they lined up just like we wanted them to. And you know, at that point, for those that you know, that may or may not understand what I look at as a quarterback or a defense is trying to do, in this particular situation, there was only one guy that was on the field, according to me, and it was one of the safeties in the back, and he makes one wrong move, I'm either going one way or the other. And he's wrong either way. He is wrong either way. But when there's 2 seconds on the clock and you're 20 yards from the end zone, it's a little different feeling than just talking about it. But long story short, he kind of took one step to the outside. Spratt went to the inside, you know, hit him on the skinny post for a touchdown, and it was over. And that would probably be one of my highlight plays that I would talk about. You know, I will say there was the flip side of that. You know, I think we were at Washita Baptist sophomore year. I think that's right. And when you do everything right, same scenario, and the big disappointment, and I make a bonehead move and try to fake to the fullback on a handoff that was never part of the play. It was just, you know, I flip around, and not one time in my history there did I ever fake to the fullback on that play. For whatever reason, had a mental block, fullback bumped the ball, hits the ground, they lay on it, game over. And so that would have been a disappointment, you know, but so what? But I will say, you talked about the defensive coordinator, and I don't know, maybe it was Washita Baptist, I don't know, but I can't remember. I don't know if there was their defensive coordinator or their head coach, that literally right after the buzzer, this was after my senior season, he came running up to me and he said, "Jeff, I just want you to know," he goes, "I've been coaching against you for 4 years, and it's always hell doing it." He goes, "I've enjoyed it." He goes, "You've made me better as a coach." And he probably doesn't remember telling me that, but you look back on things that were said to you at certain times in your life, and that's one that will always stick with me. It meant a lot to me. So.
Well, yeah, it did, and I'm sure he was really glad to see you go at that point.
Yeah.
Which we were heartbroken to see you go. But what you talk about some of those guys that surrounded you, some guys that you haven't mentioned as much, those guys up front,
Yeah.
the offensive line, and we all know that that's what allows us to go. But I don't know that I've ever, for me, as a former quarterback and somebody that wishes that they had the abilities that you had, what I look for in a quarterback is when they step in the huddle, there's total command, and there's no doubt of who's in charge. And I can say without any reservation, we had some big cats up there with Torrey and Jesse and Vidito and some of those guys and Pup and 6'7", 6'8", 350s, that are in front of you. But there was no doubt when number 10 stepped in the huddle, who was in charge of that offense. And you've got those eyes looking at you, and they know because they have that belief system. And again, that is one of the most powerful things, I think. And I think that just goes to your attitude and your personality and the investment that you made, to get to that point. But any of those guys stick out at all to you?
Oh man, they all do, Coach. I mean, as you know, I was always real close with who we call Big Filthy, John Nava. Torrey Gaines. He made it a point my freshman year. He said wherever you're at, as soon as the buzzer goes off, he said, "I'm carrying you off the field every game." So Torrey Gaines carried me off the field every game my freshman year. I'm like, "Dude, you don't have to do this every time." He was like, "Yeah, I do. Get on my shoulders." So, you talk about Big Jesse, Big Pup, rest in peace, guys. You talk about we've got Brooks Stafford, who was always good for a little scuffle under the pile, for sure. You got Jerry. You got obviously Big Filthy, C-Pie on the corner for a tight end. You got them all. And it was tough on me. I mean, I was, 5'11", 6 foot, 195 in the program, but truly just barely over 5'10", 165 for the most part. So when you're dealing with guys that are 6'5", anywhere from 6'2" to 6'5" or 6'6", and you're my height, it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes looking over them. But I don't know, my sophomore year, I don't know that you could have asked for a better group of guys on the front at all. Ernest obviously had an incredible season that year, and just an incredible player in general. But I don't care how good you are, you got to have some openings in those guys. Undoubtedly, the best front line I've ever played with, for sure.
And you talked about this earlier, is getting the ball into the hands of the people where it needed to be. And again, to be able to create big plays, to create positive plays for the offense. And I think, I don't know many times in the history of Southeastern it hadn't happened, and I'm not sure if you could look at multiple levels and you talk about small college football, we can talk about Power Fives as well. We went through an era there where one year we had the conference player of the year in the running back. One year it was a wide receiver. The next year it was a quarterback. And those being the years that you were there, because your abilities to get the ball to the people who were the playmakers gave us the best opportunity to win and gave other people great accolades as well. So I think again that's a huge attribute that you have. What about Anything else stick out about your time? I mean, I know we had, the off seasons, the dorm, the different things like that. Anything else stick out about your time at Southeastern?
Well, I mean, obviously the dorm's the dorm. We had, I'll say that I cannot believe Southeastern decided to rip Shear Hall down. I mean, if I had a letdown about the school, when I heard that, I mean, I was almost out. I was so upset. Doesn't matter the fact that I think it was 3 stories in my entire time there, and maybe years before, the 3rd floor wasn't even open because it was in such bad shape. But I mean, we called that place home. Myself and Bo, we lived in the same room for 3.5 years. And honestly, we didn't want to be anywhere else. And it was our own fraternity. It was our guys. I mean, we loved being in that dorm, as did a lot of the guys. I mean, look, there's a lot of guys that lived off campus, but for us, that's right where we wanted to be. So the camaraderie between our group and to this day, I mean, we still get together, once a year, and we've got our core group, and we never miss a beat. Friends that I could have never imagined I would have today, are still part of my life. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Trying to think, what else on that? But yeah, mainly it was the time in the dorm. The off season, I was talking to a friend of mine from high school that actually came to Southeastern for a short period while I was there, and he ended up leaving. But he said, this was just a few weeks ago, because he lived over in the towers. And he said, man, he goes, I remember watching you guys down in the parking lot pulling those semi tires. And I thought to myself, what in the heck is he doing? But those off-season workouts to where we're all vomiting, pulling those tires, and for a 165-pound guy to do that, it's a challenge, I'll tell you. But I seem to make it work, it'd kill me today for sure. But the off-season workouts were incredible. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we're talking about. Small college, upper level college, the workouts are the workouts, and it's not for everybody. It's a tough road, and it's a commitment for all that do it. Whether you're on the field or not, it is a huge commitment, and it takes some stamina to get through it for sure.
Well, Jeff, we could talk for hours and hours, and I know you want to be respectful for your time about your time at Southeastern and all the teammates, and you've had some great ones while you were here. But let's talk a minute just about life after Southeastern. What after that last season? Kind of catch us up with where Jeff Moser went, where Jeff Moser is today.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. It's the thing about me is, as we've talked about high school, college, my whole life was based around football for the most part. I mean, and then all of a sudden, we leave East Central for the last game of my senior season, and the light goes off and it's over. And it's a little bit of a shock, because that's all my family knew. And all of a sudden you're moving on to the next phase of your life, which is okay. But it's one thing that you need to regroup and look at. So I basically left there and worked a job for a little while, but ended up in, after about a year, ended up in Oklahoma City, took a position up there, and I'm in the residential lending business, which I still am today. Been doing that pretty much my entire time. And when I moved up there, I moved in next door to who is now my wife. And we met, started dating within, 6-8 months or so. We're engaged probably within a year and a half or so. And anyway, we ended up moving to Austin from there, just because we wanted to be kind of pick a spot on the map and go. And we did. We had we now have a, I'll show you here, just since I'm talking about my family. I think I've got a picture here.
Hey, you got a picture right there behind you on your desk. You got it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So this is my family. Okay. My wife Ann, my daughter Maddie, and my son Mason. I'll tell you a little bit about them. They're both heading to Arkansas here in about a month. University of Arkansas in the fall. So that I'm kind of skipping forward quite a bit, but that's a big time for us for sure. So, but anyway, we moved to Austin and got pregnant. About a year later, we had the twins and lived there for 3 or 4 years. 3 years, and then we moved back to Tulsa soon after they were born, and have been here about 18 years now, 18, 19 years. And like I said, they have just both graduated from Bixby High School, and both top 10 in their class. They both do very well. Both, socially do very well. They're both leaders in their own way. Could not ask for better children for the two of us. So we're lucky. Our Ann and I's marriages have been blessed. I mean, everybody's got ups and downs, and nothing's ever easy in life. But we have a great marriage, and we're trying to figure out how to make this next phase of our life work, because it's coming up pretty quickly here in about 30 days. So.
Well, that's great. And I know I've talked to you several times. I know your family's important to you, and you're a beautiful family, and it's a good thing that your children take after your wife and
I know.
move that.
I'm telling you. And I'll say we can talk about all this, and it's fun to talk about the past and the Hall of Fame and all that, and that's great. But there's nothing I wouldn't do for this family I have. Very, very, very proud of them for sure. So
I know you are, and I know your heart on that. Well, Jeff, again, we could talk hours and hours about your teammates, about your time here at Southeastern, and would love to do that. But talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame induction, and again, it's Southeastern's honor and privilege to have you attended here, and now to be able to honor you with this recognition. So. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to put into words what I don't feel like, because it's really hard for me to talk about me and put myself in this category, to be honest with you. It's an absolute honor. It was a surprise, I will tell you that. It's something that I will cherish. And, I've had a number of people, it just kind of traveled through the grapevine, but it is a big deal. And I think it all boils down to the fact that at any level, being put in a category that is somewhat honored for years to come, and considering who all has come through Southeastern and who's on that wall. I mean, I can't express enough gratitude and appreciation for it. It'll always be very special to me. When my mom was in tears, I'll say that, as you know her, when she heard that. Trust me, this will be hard on her too, watching this, I promise you. But yeah, it's a special thing for me. It's a special thing for my family. The thing about, obviously, my kids never saw me compete, but what a lot of people don't know is my wife didn't even know me in my competitive days. And honestly, that's something that kind of attracted me to her. I wanted a separation from where I came from, and the constant connection to my past, sports history. But she understands it, and she understands how special it is, as does my family. And we're all just very grateful for the opportunity to be included, for sure.
Well, Jeff, you've mentioned family a number of times, and you will forever be a part of the Southeastern athletic family and the Southeastern family, university family. But, your family was a huge part of your career and continues to be. I remember, again, just like as yesterday, your mom coming, your grandmother coming, it's just your sister being involved, here as a cheerleader at Southeastern. And it's just, it was a unique situation that, again, the Moser family blessed Southeastern in many, many ways during their time here. And I'm forever grateful for that personally and as a representative of the university.
Well, it was a big part of, my mother even went to Southeastern. I don't know.
I didn't
All
know
knew that. She was there years ago. And then obviously my sister, that was Southeastern, is to this day a big part of her life. And that was a helpful transition for me, as she was part of the athletics through cheerleading. And that was kind of a go-to for me, while I was kind of bringing myself into where we ended up. So yeah, I mean, Southeastern has been a huge part of our family and always will be for those reasons. But I don't want to exclude you from this conversation. We haven't talked about you either. And
we're to the end of this interview though.
Well, I need, since a lot of people are going to be watching this, I need them to know the significance that you were in my life too. You're in that category of guys that really made a difference for me. And you need to know that. And I'll say that on this so everybody can see it, not just when we're talking one-on-one, because I've told you that before. But there are a handful of men in my life that helped me with losing a father early, and you were one of those. And I appreciate that for sure.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. And again, as I said earlier, I've learned a lot from Jeff Moser and continue to learn a lot from Jeff Moser and deeply value our relationship, and it has nothing to do with what you did on the football field. So
yeah. Oh, there's a lot changes after the football field, I promise you.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
I guess last thing I would add, if there's anybody else you want to thank or anything across the board.
I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of the people that had a big impact during my time, not only in high school and or college, but you've got your Coach Baxters, Coach Sloan, Coach Richards, you got Coach Tips, Coach Cooper, the former Coach Williams, Coach Young, all from high school that, again, during a tough start of my high school days, all had a huge impact. Coach Bird in my life, not only as a person, but as a player. And I don't know, what I would have done without them. And my mom would say the same thing. She's forever grateful for the people and the men that were part of my life. So that would be my look back, and my thanks would go not to the awards, not to the football experience. It's just to the people that had an impact on me in a positive way, which made me who I am today. So.
Oh, Jeff, you are so humble and deflect that, your talents and awards, but I will say this, your mom is at the top of that list in my book, and she's a Hall of Famer in her own right, and love her to death, and was always a bright spot to get to see her, and now, from a distance, get to check on her through you from time to time. But you touched many, many lives. Your family touched many, many lives at Southeastern, and we're forever grateful. Southeastern is a better place because Jeff Moser chose to attend school here.
Thank you for saying that.